Hello, I'm Dana Sparks, Managing Broker of Maximum One Realty, Greater Atlanta. Today's contract tip has to do with the topic of designated agency. For whatever reason, we're seeing a lot of contracts where the agents are writing down under the designated agency portion in the purchase and sale agreements, they're listing the agent's name that represents the buyer and the other agent's name that represents the seller. If this was truly a designated agency situation, then obviously that is appropriate. However, we are seeing agents putting those names in under that location, under the agency portion of the purchase and sale, when there are two brokers involved. So let's talk a little bit about designated agency. Designated agency is a situation in which the seller is a client of a broker and the buyer is a client of the same broker. However, there are two separate agents working with each party. One broker, two agents working with the public in a client relationship. That is designated agency. The way to think of it is the broker designates one agent to work with the seller and designates one agent to work with the buyer, hence designated agency. Dual agency is one broker, one agent working with the buyer and the seller, both in a client relationship. So what documents create a client relationship versus a customer relationship? Well, let's look at the seller first. The document that creates the client relationship between the brokerage and the seller is the exclusive listing agreement. The document that creates a customer relationship between the brokerage and the seller is the authorization to show unlisted property or authorization to show property that's not listed, depending on which set of contracts you're using. Both of those documents, or either one of those documents, either the client relationship document, the listing agreement, or the authorization to show unlisted property, should be completed by the agent working with the seller, whether that be in a customer relationship or a client relationship, because those are the documents that delineate what the seller is paying the listing broker, regardless of the legal relationship in which the seller is working with the brokerage. Now let's look at the buyer side. What document creates a client relationship with the buyer? Obviously, the buyer brokerage engagement. That is the document that creates the legal client relationship between the buyer and the brokerage. The document that creates a customer relationship between the brokerage and a buyer is called customer acknowledgement. Imagine that. So again, regardless of which relationship your brokerage is working with the public buyer, you as the agent should complete one of those two documents. Now, Georgia license law dictates that if you are working with a buyer in a client relationship, you must complete a buyer brokerage agreement. If you are working with a public buyer in a customer relationship, there is no law that dictates the paperwork to be completed. However, remember, each brokerage may have a certain policy on that paperwork. At Maximum One, we require our agents to sign a customer acknowledgement with a buyer with whom they are working as customer. It is still a good idea as an agent to complete these documents. Number one, it either for the buyer or the seller, because number one, it specifically delineates the relationship between that public person and the brokerage. You are the affiliated licensee of the brokerage, but they are signing these agreements with your company. Number two, both of these documents, well, actually all four of these documents, the listing agreement, authorization to show unlisted property, buyer brokerage agreement, acknowledgement of working as a customer, all of those agreements also delineate payment. So unless you're doing pro bono work, which you may choose to do, make sure you complete these documents to ensure how you, as the agent of the brokerage, are going to get paid. Now, further on in the purchase and sale agreements, when it comes to default, a client, a one of the parties defaulting on the contract, and it comes to the brokerage getting paid, and once the brokerage is paid, then they can pay you as the agent. That specifically refers back to another document that you have signed regarding payment, which are the documents that we are talking about. Listing agreement, authorization showing listed property, buyer brokerage agreement, or acknowledgement of a customer. Thank you for watching. Again, I'm Dana Sparks, Managing Broker of Maximum One Realty, Greater Atlanta, satisfying your needs with education, innovation, and service.